I wonder why nobody don't like me. Or is it a fact that I'm ugly? I wonder why nobody don't like me. Or is it a fact that I'm ugly?
Welcome back to Black and White, the second episode ever, and the second one this week. I hope you so much enjoyed our last episode with Evelyn Evermore, and you are going to like this one even more, featuring Pastiche, acclaimed Chicago drag performer, original host of the show Iconic, which has now been passed off to Masha Potato and is still amazing, creator of some of the stupidest drag I have ever seen, fellow runner-up in San Francisco's Turbo Pageant, hosted by Florida Man and Nikki Jizz, who you guys will get to meet very soon. I love Pastiche, but before we get into the pod, just a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, throughout this pod, we talk a lot about a lot of things. We get a lot into digital drag and the politics and the social movements behind it, and I would just like everybody to know that we are always coming from an incredibly good-spirited place and are major fans of all forms of drag and are talking cynically about our negative experiences that we have had personally within the realm of digital drag and drag in the year of 2020. That said, the very last note, I would love to start receiving some feedback on this podcast, including questions about me, questions for the guests. I could even answer some advice or have you guys recommend some topics. Basically, I want to open up the line of communication for this podcast to all of my listeners, so please feel free to send an email with your questions or advice or topics or comments to WTF@Dion.WTF. That's WTF@DEON.WTF. Or you can go straight to my website, Dion.WTF, and go to the contact page. Click there. There's a little bit of a box that you do a little bit of your typing into, and it all ends up in the same place. We would love to hear from you, and I would love to discuss some of the dumb things you guys come up with future guests. So, fill up my inbox. That said, let's get into the episode. Podcast starts now. Okay, hi, we are here on Black and White with Pastiche. Say hello.
Hello.
Awesome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, thank you so much for being on here. As I probably mentioned in the top of the intro, me and Pastiche were cohorts in the first online Turbo Pageant. Although there were no actual scores or metrics given, I'm pretty sure I was always a couple points, above, but I consider us equals.
Thank you. I won't fight you on that. You're the one who is still chugging out those videos and those songs, so I will give you this.
Which I'm sure we will speak a whole lot more about. Did you, I'm sure this will be a free game by the time this episode premieres. Have you heard about the All-Stars season of Turbo Page?
I have.
Were you invited?
I was.
And it's a hard no, I'm sure.
It wasn't. And this conversation just happened, and I was like, shit. So and I are about to talk about how I'm not doing drag online anymore.
But you did sign on for Turbo Pageant All-Stars. Wait, I'm so excited to compete against you again.
I did.
Hell yeah.
I know. I don't have any, class or anything in January, and so to give myself anything to do, to not just sit in my apartment alone in the dark in the middle of the winter in Chicago, I will take that opportunity.
That's what'll get it done. And for any of the listeners who may not know, Turbo Pageant is a San Francisco native drag pageant that was based off of Crash Landing in Chicago, I believe, hosted by Florida Man and Nikki Jizz. Their episodes will be coming along very, very soon. And it is stupid. That is the assignment. And it is such a blast. We competed back in, it was May?
I think it was before May.
Was it? Oh, I guess, yeah, it was. April.
Maybe April even. It was early.
I was fully a different drag artist. I have at that point in time. And I'm excited to do it again. It starts halfway through January. I believe the premiere date is January 18th. If anybody wants to tune in, it's somewhere around there. But that's so exciting. Do you have any ideas, things you can spoil just yet? Any drafted plans?
I don't know. I mean, I definitely think that this is just me stumbling now around an answer here, but I don't know if I want to do the thing where I always put far too many eggs in a single basket at once, even though I'm not really having all that much to do otherwise in January.
Right.
But I love taking a little time off and being like, now I'm going to reinvent myself. And nobody else cares but me. But I think I'm going to do something different.
Got it. Well, I'll be looking out for different. That's the...
You'll be looking out for different. Well, you know,
how different can you get? I mean, for the audience members, Pastiche put together an entire stop-motion production to a Fiona Apple song that had been released, I think, a week before. So we're only gonna get further out there.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, I think part of it too, and I don't know if you feel this way or not, but I'm not you don't feel this way, but I am not a performance girl. Like, I'm not...
I don't even believe that, having seen... Well, I mean, yeah, I'm not a bing, bang, boom, but I'm certainly...
I hope everyone knows what that noise is.
Exactly. In case anybody's wondering, we're doing like a full drag kind of routine here on the Zoom.
Imagine damaging your rotator cuff just every single night.
Absolutely, popping out a shoulder. But I think you're a performance queen. I've seen the videos of some of your performances in Chicago, and you've got the presence, at least, if you're not doing choreography.
Oh. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I think what I mean by like, the not doing a lot of choreo is that I just do a lot of gag, prop, comedy, stupid stuff. And like, I think it's good. I'd like to think other people think it's good.
I absolutely think it's good. I definitely feel you on being the like prop comedy person of your area, because I always am coming into these drag shows with handfuls of like posters and boxes and items, and everyone's like, "Why? Are you here for the right thing?"
I don't know. This was in Chicago, so it was a number I did in the club in January, actually. I don't know if you saw, but I was at Table for Piece of Me by Britney Spears, and I had snacks on me, and people ate the snacks.
That I did not see. Wait.
Thank you. Yeah. But I had to have the bar manager at Berlin let me in several days in advance of the show so I could build the table in the basement because I couldn't take it on the train.
Okay, wait. I'm going to have to go back and find this video. Hopefully I can link it for the listeners. But how are you wearing this table? Like, what was the mechanics of the table? You were just under it? Supporting it?
No, it was attached to my arms. And I had snacks and all of the various things on a table surface that I had made. But they were all glued down. The gag was, I stood up, put my arms down, and all the snacks were still attached.
Okay, that's really cool. I'm into that.
Thank you. Anyway, that whole bit was to say, I grow tired of being a clown all the time, and I don't know if you feel that way. I
definitely do. Yeah, like I find myself, like, it's hard to not consider it just like the societal, like, RuPaul urge, but it's like I find myself wanting to be that, like, sexier, choreographed kind of pop music queen, and I'm grappling with whether that's, like, the pressure of being in drag in 2020, or if, like, that's something that's actually fulfilling to me. But I guess, like, luckily with quarantine, like, I only really squeak out the numbers that I know are possible in my basement, so I never have to agonize over that choice between genres.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I think it's very difficult to navigate what you're saying, where it's like, are you being a pop star or are you still sort of doing the in the glab? Okay, let's not stutter through that in our
no, it's okay.
And the beep boop, a da boop boop boop.
Cancelled, exposed, and probably edited out of the final cut of this recording. Anyways, before we get into the full topic of drag and those sorts of things, I have an initial segment called Your Life Story in 1 Minute. So for the listeners, I want to really give them a full introduction to you, give them a more intimate understanding of your upbringing and your background, and I need that as well. So I'm going to put up a timer and ask you to tell your life story and condense it down into 1 minute, talking about highlights of like where you lived, family, likes and dislikes, school, any sort of assorted trauma that you would like to share with us, and just sort of give us the general rundown of who Pastiche is. You feel ready?
Sure.
No one's ever.
You said selected traumas. Girl, it took my therapist 6 years. You think I got a minute?
And she hasn't, like, bullet pointed them for you just yet?
No.
Okay. I'm putting 1 minute on the clock. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pastiche's life story. In 1 minute, they're quivering, and go!
So I was born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut. I don't know why I'm shouting as if this will make this any easier. I grew up there. I went to college there. I started doing drag while I was in college because college was not fulfilling all of the things that I wanted and needed from my life. So I decided to become an alcoholic party clown. Then I moved to Chicago right after graduating from my undergrad. Worked a really shitty job here, but I just wanted to live in Chicago. I came once, I went to Berlin, huge nightclub here in the city, and said, I want to do this. I want to move here. I want to do drag here. So I did. And then I decided to apply to do my MFA at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, where I am now, and was doing drag during that period of time, but now mostly writing and focusing on not Pastiche, but on Jay, who is me.
And that was a perfect minute. That was a beautiful minute, actually. Like, the way that you kind of came, like, you stuck the landing. Truly. So wait, let's go back and talk about some of that. So for the listeners, I know Pastiche as the academic queen, the most likely to involve school. So what was like your initial major? Like it's so strange that I've been kind of tracking your journey this whole time. What do you do in school?
Like right now?
Yeah, like what was your major initially, and then like what's the MFA program you are in? Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So when I was in undergrad, I was a double major in women's gender and sexuality studies and Russian and Eastern European studies.
So fully like bisexual culture. Women
That's right.
and Russians on either side. Those are the two.
Those are the two genders.
Yes.
Right.
On the record.
My thesis was about trains, literally Soviet trains.
What was the thesis? What was the idea you were positing about trains?
That they are there. No, that the if you haven't seen it, dear listeners, the Moscow Metro is one of the most beautiful public spaces generally, and absolutely the most beautiful train station.
I'm looking it up now.
The whole network, not just one. If you've ever been to the New York
it is
subway.
Beautiful.
Yeah. You ever been to New York?
I actually have not.
You ever see a picture of the subway?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, garbage business. Yeah.
Anywho.
Meanwhile, their subway is literally like a series of Grand Central stations, from what I'm looking at.
If not better, because each one had a different commissioned Soviet artist to produce it. And what I was writing about was how porcelain was a really important material in the construction of the decorative elements of the metro. And before, that was primarily a domestic household object and not one that was used in something like public art.
Well, I was going to say, that's so delicate.
It's actually not.
Oh.
Porcelain is incredibly hard.
Oh. Well, I guess that makes sense, seeing as toilets are made of them. I don't know. I watched one episode of the Pottery Throwdown or whatever and really thought I knew something about porcelain.
So it vitrifies, which means it turns into something like glass, which is quite strong, quite dense. But that's also part of what I was thinking about, is sort of the domesticity of the object of porcelain and how we think it's delicate when it's really not that delicate. and how
Right.
that intertwines with like ideas of femininity, and then how bringing it out of the home and into this public space underground makes some sort of comment on the early Soviet period's attempts at reshuffling what womanhood